There's a silent weight the divine feminine carries, and maybe you felt it pressing against your chest in the middle of the night, the fear that all of this, all the pain, all the waiting, all the transformation, might lead nowhere. It's as if every step toward union comes with a whisper asking, what if you're wasting your life? This fear of failure in the twin flame journey isn't just another worry, it's the ghost that makes separation even more painful, because now you're not only distant from your twin, you're distant from yourself, questioning your own intuition. Twin flame separation, which is meant to be a time of growth, becomes a prison when fear takes the lead, and that's exactly why so many divine feminines get trapped in this cycle, searching for answers where they'll never be, in his behavior. But here's the paradox no one tells you about: the more you desire union, the more you fear losing it before it even happens. It's like holding sand in your hand, the tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. A divine feminine caught in this fear lives on an emotional roller coaster. One day she interprets a sign as hope, and the next she interprets silence as rejection. And you know what happens? That fear turns into self-sabotage. You end up blocking the union yourself because deep down, you believe you're not worthy of it, or that the universe will take everything from you at the last second, just like it has before. It's a dangerous dance between wanting too much and fearing too much, and most people on this path don't realize this is the final test, the last portal before true, authentic union. Now take a deep breath, because what I'm about to share with you over the next 30 minutes isn't another superficial, trust the process, or love yourself first, lecture. This is different. I'm giving you the supreme key of the divine feminine, a complete 4-pillar activation process that dissolves fear at the root, along with the maintenance strategy that ensures you don't just reach union, but stay in it with authenticity and power. If you're tired of being a hostage to your own emotions, tired of waking up checking if he texted, tired of feeling like you're failing some invisible test, this is your moment to turn everything around. Because the answer was never in the runner, it has always been within you, waiting to be activated. If you're ready to release the fear of failure in your twin flame journey, enroll now so you don't miss what we're about to reveal. The diagnosis, where fear hides in the DF, divine feminine. 1. The illusion of failure. The first thing that needs to be crystal clear is this: the fear of failing in the twin flame journey has never actually been about him, never. When the divine feminine wakes up in the middle of the night with that tightness in her chest, thinking, what if I'm wrong about everything, what's really at stake isn't union with the other person, it's her trust in herself. It's the deep fear of looking in the mirror 5 years from now and realizing she failed the most important test of her life, the test of recognizing her own worth, trusting her intuition, and believing she's worthy of the love she talks about so much. Think about it, you're not afraid he won't come back, you're afraid your discernment has betrayed you from the beginning, afraid you poured everything into a fairy tale that only existed in your mind. This illusion is cruel because it wears the costume of love, but underneath it's pure fear of inadequacy. How many times have you caught yourself thinking, maybe I'm not spiritually evolved enough for this union, or maybe I messed something up and ruined my chance? These thoughts don't come from the heart of the DF, they come from an old wound whispering that you need to be perfect to be loved, that you have to get every answer right to deserve the reward. And when you operate from that frequency, you start acting like a desperate student trying to pass an impossible exam, checking every sign, analyzing every word, seeking external validation that you're on the right path. And that, my love, is the opposite of divine feminine sovereignty. Here's the liberating truth: you cannot fail a journey that was designed specifically to teach you that you are already whole. The universe isn't testing whether you're good enough, it's showing you where you still believe you're not. Every separation, every silence, every moment of doubt isn't a punishment, it's an invitation to stop seeking his approval and start approving of yourself. Once you understand that, everything shifts. But before we get to the solution, we need to expose the masks this fear uses to hide inside you. 2. The 3 masks of fear, deep dive. Mask number 1, the fear of wasted investment. Let's be honest, you've already calculated in your mind how many years, how many tears, how many sleepless nights you've invested in this connection. It's like an invisible spreadsheet in your heart, tracking every sacrifice, every time you stayed home working on your healing instead of going out with friends, every spiritual book you read, every meditation you did. And then comes the torturing question, what if all of this was for nothing? This is the fear of wasted investment, and it's fueled by scarcity, the belief that you have limited time in this life and you're betting everything on a horse that might never reach the finish line. It's the same fear that keeps people in bad relationships because, I've invested too much to walk away now. But here's what no one tells you, this fear only exists because you're measuring your journey by the external result, physical union, rather than the internal transformation, who you became. Imagine if, instead of that, you looked back and recognized that every tear taught you how to feel more deeply, every night alone taught you how to be whole within yourself, every moment of doubt forced you to strengthen your connection to the divine. You didn't waste time, you invested in yourself, and that's an investment that never brings negative returns. The problem isn't the time that passed, it's the lens you're using to look at that time. When the DF activates her sovereignty, she understands that every second of this journey has already been worth it, because she's not the same person she was when it all started. And if you still feel that tightness when you think about lost time, do this exercise with me now. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 things you've learned about yourself on this journey that you never would have learned otherwise. Maybe vulnerability. Maybe strength. Maybe the ability to love unconditionally. Look at that list and ask yourself, does this not have value? The fear of failure in the twin flame journey feeds on the lie that only union matters, but the truth is, you've already won everything. You just need to acknowledge it. And once you do, the second mask begins to fall. Mask number 2, the fear of humiliation. This mask might be the most painful because it touches your most human side, the desire to be seen as wise, intuitive, special. How many times have you shared with friends, family, or even online about your twin flame connection, about how different he is, how destined everything feels? And how many times, after another separation or another silent phase, did you feel that burning heat rise in your face, that internal voice saying, they must think I'm crazy, delusional, pathetic? This is the fear of humiliation, and it feeds on external validation, the need for the world to see that you were right, that your intuition was real, that you weren't a fool chasing a fantasy. Let me tell you something I lived through. Years ago, I was so trapped in this fear that I stopped telling anyone about my journey because I couldn't stand another look of pity or skepticism. And guess what happened? The fear only grew, because now I was alone with it, no witnesses, but still desperate for proof that I wasn't wrong. Until one day I realized something revolutionary. Other people's opinions about my journey only mattered because I believed they had more authority over my life than I did. The moment I became my own source of validation, the fear of humiliation lost all power, because who cares what they think if I know, deep in my soul, that I'm on the right path? The authentic divine feminine doesn't need an audience to confirm her truth. She doesn't post indirect quotes hoping he'll see them, doesn't share details with friends hoping they'll say, wow, he really loves you, doesn't search for external signs to prove she's not crazy. She operates from the inside out, not the outside in. And if you still feel this fear, ask yourself, whose approval do I need to validate my experience? When the answer becomes, only my own, you'll be free. But there's still one more mask, the deepest one. Mask number 3, the fear of the next pain. This is the mask that lives in the basement of your soul, the place where childhood wounds you didn't even know were still open continue to echo. It's the fear that if you allow union to happen, it will be ripped away from you in an even more brutal way than before. It's like your inner child is saying, the last time I trusted fully, I was abandoned. The last time I opened my heart, I was rejected. The last time I let myself dream, the dream turned into a nightmare. This fear of failure in the twin flame journey isn't about the future, it's about your unhealed past repeating itself on loop inside your psyche. You're not afraid of what could happen, you're afraid of reliving what already happened, and not surviving it this time. This mask is sneaky because it disguises itself as protection and emotional intelligence. It whispers, be careful. Don't fully open your heart. Keep one foot out the door for when he inevitably hurts you again. And so the DF lives in a painful contradiction, wanting union with every fiber of her being while maintaining an invisible wall that prevents true vulnerability. It's like wanting to learn how to swim but refusing to lift your feet from the bottom of the pool. You're in the water, but you're not actually swimming, and the worst part is, you know it. And that creates a quiet guilt inside you, because you feel like you're sabotaging the very union you want so deeply. But here's the secret that changes everything: this fear doesn't go away by avoiding pain, it goes away by walking into it consciously and discovering that you are bigger than any wound. Healing isn't about guaranteeing you'll never suffer again, it's about knowing, in the depths of your soul, that you will survive and transform through whatever suffering comes. When the divine feminine understands this, she stops protecting and starts expanding. And it's in this expansion that the real key appears, because now, she's ready to receive not a union rooted in fear, but a union rooted in sovereignty. 3. Transition to the solution. Now that you've seen the three masks, the lost investment, the humiliation, and the next pain, something important needs to be said: you won't overcome these fears by fighting them. You've already tried that, haven't you? You've repeated, "I trust the universe," 1,000 times while your heart was still racing with anxiety. You've meditated trying to clear the fear, only for it to return even stronger the next day. That happens because fear isn't an enemy to defeat, it's a messenger waiting to be seen, heard, and loved. And the only energy capable of doing that, of absorbing and transmuting these masks at the root, is the energy of the divine feminine in full sovereignty, not the feminine who waits, who wants, who begs, but the feminine who knows, who rules. This sovereignty isn't something you earn out there, by doing more meditations, reading more books, or achieving more spiritual milestones. It's already inside you, waiting to be activated, like a seed that only needs the right conditions to bloom. And those conditions are created through a very specific process that I'm about to give you, the 4 activation pillars of the divine feminine. These pillars aren't abstract theory or pretty concepts for Instagram, they are deep actions, tangible practices that reorganize your energy from the inside out, from the root to the crown. Each pillar is a key, and when you turn all 4 in the right order, the door to authentic union opens, not because you forced it, but because you became the frequency that naturally attracts it. Before we move into the first pillar, I want you to do something important right now. If this message is resonating with you, if you feel like someone is finally speaking the raw truth without romanticizing the pain, show that alignment to the universe by hitting the like button on this video. This isn't superstition, it's energy. When you publicly declare through a simple gesture that you're aligned with this frequency of healing, you're saying to the quantum field, "I choose this." And if you're not yet subscribed to the Spiritual Love Code, click the subscribe button now and activate the notifications, because what comes next will give you the practical tools that will transform not only your twin flame journey, but your entire life. Ready? Then let's begin with the first pillar. Pillar 1, Soul Sovereignty, the end of dependency. Definition: your happiness and worth are unshakable, regardless of the state of the union. Soul sovereignty is the foundation upon which the entire structure of the divine feminine rests, and without it, any other spiritual work you attempt becomes like building a house on sand. But what does it truly mean to be sovereign? It's not the performative independence of posting happy photos on social media while inside you're falling apart waiting for a message from him. Sovereignty is when your inner peace, your joy, your sense of purpose are completely detached from the behavior, presence, or absence of your twin. It's when you wake up in the morning and the first thought isn't, "I wonder if he'll talk to me today," but, "What beautiful thing will I create in my life today?" It seems simple, but this frequency shift is what separates a DF trapped in suffering from a DF operating in the magnetic energy of wholeness. Here's the painful truth most people avoid: as long as your happiness depends on him, you have no power at all. Zero. Because you handed the keys to your emotional peace to someone who, at this moment, is in runner mode or deep confusion, and expecting that person to regulate your emotional world is like expecting a 5-year-old to drive a car. It simply makes no sense. A DF who understands this stops outsourcing her stability and becomes the source of her own emotional abundance. And when that happens, something magical occurs. Your twin senses, on an energetic level, that you no longer need him to be happy, and ironically, that's exactly what pulls him back, because now you're not an emotional burden, you're a safe harbor. But don't be mistaken, this sovereignty isn't achieved through positive affirmations or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's deep work. It requires you to see where you're leaking energy, where you're giving your power away, where you're operating from scarcity disguised as love. And that's exactly what we're about to do now, with a practical action that will show you with crystal clarity where you lost your sovereignty, and how to reclaim it. Because knowledge without application is just entertainment, and you're not here to be entertained, you're here to transform. Deep action, exercise identifying your leverage point. Where did you give away your power? Grab a pen and paper, because this exercise will bring you more clarity in 5 minutes than months of therapy. I'm going to ask you one direct question, and I need you to be brutally honest with yourself. Where, specifically, did you hand over the control of your emotional peace to him? It might be something obvious, like checking his social media 3 times a day to see if he posted, if he's online, if he liked someone's picture. It might be waiting for his messages as if your life depends on it, feeling euphoric when a notification appears and sinking into despair when it doesn't. It might be mentally rehearsing reunion scenarios while you wash dishes, drive, or try to sleep, spending more mental energy on him than on your own life. This is your leverage point, the place where the fear of failing the union expresses itself through obsessive behavior. And why is it so important to identify it? Because as long as you don't see the pattern controls you. But the moment you shine light on it and say out loud, "I lose my power when I do X," you create space between the impulse and the action, and that space is where your freedom lives. I've had clients realize their leverage point was rereading old conversations looking for signs of love. Others discovered it was asking 10 different people for advice. Others noticed it was obsessively checking horoscopes, tarot, or spiritual predictions in an attempt to control the future through information. Now comes the revolutionary part: for every leverage point you identify, you'll create a power reclamation ritual. For example, if your point is checking his social media, the ritual might be, every time the impulse hits, instead of opening Instagram, open your journal and write one thing you're grateful for today. If your point is waiting for messages, your ritual might be, put your phone in another room for 2 hours and do something that nourishes you, take a walk, paint, cook a new recipe. The goal isn't to suppress desire, it's to redirect the energy that was being wasted on external surveillance into internal investment. And trust me, after 2 consistent weeks of this, you'll feel more in control of yourself than after months of spiritual work that never touched this concrete point. Practice. Create 3 sources of abundance flow, not related to your twin. Here's a truth most people don't want to hear, but it will liberate you. Your life needs to be so rich, so full, so vibrant that he becomes a beautiful possibility, not the sole source of meaning in your existence. And this doesn't happen accidentally, it happens through intentional design. So now, you're going to create 3 sources of abundance flow, areas of your life where you'll invest emotional, mental, and creative energy, and that nourish you regardless of what's happening in your twin flame journey. These must be specific, not generic. Taking care of myself is too vague, you need actionable definitions. Here are real examples for inspiration. Source 1, a creative project. Maybe you've always wanted to write a book, learn guitar, or create digital content about something you're passionate about. Dedicate at least 3 hours a week, not as a distraction, but as genuine expression of who you are beyond this connection. Source 2, community connection. Volunteer for a cause that moves you, join a women's group, start a book circle. Something reminding you that you're part of a vast human web, and that your twin isn't your only profound connection on this planet. Source 3, personal mastery. Choose a skill you want to master, dance classes 3 times a week, an online course in psychology, astrology, finances, or even learning to cook dishes from different cultures. The goal of these sources isn't to distract you from the pain or keep you busy so you don't think about him. That would be emotional avoidance disguised as productivity. The goal is to reconnect you with the truth. You are a multidimensional soul with talents, desires, and purposes that exist independently of this union. When your energy is invested here, the vibration that used to feed anxiety and obsession now fuels creation and expansion. And what happens? You begin to shine again. People around you notice you're lighter, more present. And your twin, even from afar, feels this frequency shift, because a divine feminine in abundance is irresistibly magnetic, while one in scarcity is energetically repelling. Result, the DF begins operating from wholeness, not lack. When you integrate soul sovereignty through these practical exercises, by identifying your leverage points and creating sources of abundance, something profound happens in your energy. You stop being the one who needs and become the one who overflows. And this isn't poetic language, it's a measurable frequency shift. When you're in lack, your emotional energy constantly asks, am I enough? Will he come back? Do I deserve this? These questions generate a vibration of emptiness and insecurity, and the universe, which responds to vibration rather than words, mirrors that lack back to you. But when you operate from wholeness, the questions shift to, what will I create today? How will I express myself? How will I contribute? And this vibration attracts opportunities, synchronicities, and yes, movement from your twin. But pay attention. Wholeness does not mean you no longer desire union. It does not mean you became cold or indifferent. It means your desire now comes from a place of addition, not desperation. You don't want him to fill a void, you want him to expand a fullness that already exists. It's the difference between a beggar asking for coins and a king inviting someone to his banquet. Both are offering something, but the energy behind them is worlds apart. A sovereign DF doesn't beg for crumbs of attention, she invites someone into an abundant, reciprocal experience of love. And if he's not ready for that, she doesn't shrink or question her worth, she continues ruling her inner kingdom, knowing the right person will recognize her value. And here's the most beautiful part. When you reach this state of sovereignty, the fear of failure in the twin flame journey naturally dissolves, because you realize there is no possible failure. If union happens, wonderful, you'll enter it from strength, not desperation. If it doesn't happen the way you imagined, your life is still so rich that you don't feel destroyed, you feel grateful for the growth. This is the true safety your soul has been seeking. It was never in the guarantee that he will return, it has always been in the certainty that you will be okay no matter what. But sovereignty alone isn't enough, because something deeper still needs to be addressed, your relationship with the present moment and your urge to control the future. Pillar 2, Radical Acceptance, Unconditional Surrender. Definition: accepting the present moment as perfect and divinely orchestrated, no matter how chaotic it appears. If sovereignty is the foundation, radical acceptance is the breath of the divine feminine, it is what keeps you alive and flowing even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. But let's be very clear about what this truly means, because acceptance has become one of those spiritual buzzwords everyone repeats without understanding its revolutionary depth. Radical acceptance is not passive resignation, it's not you crossing your arms and saying, "Fine, I give up, whatever God wants," with a defeated tone. It's the exact opposite, it is you looking at the separation, the silence, the uncertainty, and saying from the depths of your soul, I trust that this moment, exactly as it is perfectly orchestrated by the universe for my highest good, even if my human mind cannot see it yet. It is surrender in its purest form, a surrender so complete that you stop fighting reality and begin to dance with it. Here is the problem: most people think they are practicing acceptance when in truth they are only practicing suppression. They say, I accept, with their mouth, but inside they are screaming, why is this taking so long? When will it change? What do I need to do to speed this up? That is not acceptance, it is control disguised as spirituality. True acceptance is visceral, it is felt in the body, it is when you can sit in the middle of uncertainty without every cell in your being twisting itself trying to change what is. It's when the twin flame separation stops being a prison sentence and becomes a forced spiritual retreat, where you finally have time and space to meet yourself without the distractions of a codependent relationship. Does it sound difficult? It is. But it's also the most liberating thing you will ever experience. And here is the truth that will change everything: fear feeds exclusively on your resistance to the present moment. Every time you think, this should not be happening like this, you are feeding fear. Every time you compare where you are with where you think you should be, you are feeding fear. Every time you try to control the union timeline, you are feeding fear. Why? Because you are sending a clear message to the universe: I don't trust you, I need to take over. And guess what the universe does when you take over? It lets you, and you end up alone carrying a weight that was never yours to begin with. Radical acceptance kills fear at its root because it removes the fuel that keeps it alive: resistance. And now you're going to learn exactly how to do this. Deep action, surrender practice, the comfortable void, learning to stay in that not knowing, without filling it with anxiety. This practice will challenge every fiber of control inside you, but if you can master it, you will experience a peace that does not depend on external circumstances. Here's the exercise: for the next 7 days, every time you feel anxiety rising, that desperate urge to know when he will come back, if he will come back, what's going on in his mind, instead of rushing to fill that void with answers, checking tarot, messaging friends, analyzing signs, seeking information, you will simply sit with the void. Literally. Sit on a comfortable chair, place your hands on your lap, close your eyes, and say out loud, I choose not to know right now, and that's okay. Take 3 deep breaths and feel the discomfort without trying to fix it. It will be awful at first, I won't lie. Your mind will scream, your body will fidget, every part of you will want to get up and do something, anything, to escape that sensation of powerlessness. But here is the secret: what you think is powerlessness is actually surrender, and surrender is the greatest power there is. Because when you stop spending 90% of your energy trying to control the uncontrollable, you free that energy to be used for things that actually matter, like your healing, your creation, your expansion. After 3 or 4 days, something magical happens: the void starts to feel comfortable. You realize that not knowing the future is not a threat, it is freedom. You don't need all the answers to be at peace, you can simply be. Let me share something personal. There was a moment in my own journey when I was so obsessed with knowing, that I consulted 7 different tarot readings in the same week, each one giving me a different answer. And there I was, trying to piece them all together like a puzzle, when I suddenly had an epiphany: I was spending more time trying to predict the future than creating the present. That day, I made a pact with myself, to go 1 whole month without seeking any answers about when, or if. It was the hardest and most transformative month of my life. Because for the first time, I wasn't running from myself anymore, I was finally meeting myself. And you can do this too. The comfortable void is where the divine feminine finds her true strength, because it's where she realizes she doesn't need to control anything to be safe. Practice, surrender meditation focused on releasing the timeline. Now let's go deeper into surrender with a specific practice that will reprogram your nervous system to operate in the frequency of trust instead of anxiety. This is the surrender meditation, and you will do it every day for at least 10 minutes, preferably in the morning. Find a quiet place, sit comfortably, close your eyes, and begin with deep breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Do this until your body begins to relax. Now, visualize that you are tightly holding a rope tied to the future, and this rope represents your attachment to the timeline, when he will return, when the union will happen, when your life will finally make sense. Feel the weight of this rope in your hands. Feel how your fingers are turning white from gripping it. Feel the tension in your shoulders, your neck, your chest. And now, with deep intention, visualize yourself slowly opening your hands and letting the rope go. Watch it float upward, away from you, returning to the universe. And as it rises, say mentally or aloud, I release the need to know when. I release the need to control how. I trust that divine timing is wiser than my human urgency. I surrender completely to the now. Take a deep breath and feel the relief in your body, your shoulders dropping, your chest expanding, your jaw relaxing. This is the physical sensation of surrender, and you must memorize it. Do this meditation daily and, whenever throughout the day you feel the anxiety of control returning, close your eyes for 10 seconds and recall the sensation of releasing the rope. Over time, it becomes automatic. You no longer need to consciously fight control, because your body will have learned that surrender is safe, that letting go is not loss, but liberation. And here's something few people will tell you: the universe responds much faster to your intentions when you are in the energy of surrender than when you are in the energy of control. Why? Because control is resistance, and resistance creates friction. Surrender is flow, and flow is the path of least resistance where miracles occur. The divine feminine who masters surrender no longer needs to chase union. She becomes the magnetic field that naturally attracts everything that is hers by divine right. Result: fear is fueled by resistance to the present. Acceptance kills it. When you truly integrate radical acceptance and the practice of surrender, something extraordinary happens. The fear of failure in the twin flame journey simply has nowhere left to cling. You know why? Because fear can only survive in an environment of resistance. It needs you to fight what is, to reject the present moment, to desperately try to force a different future. But when you embrace the now as perfect, even if it looks chaotic, fear loses its narrative. It can no longer say, "What if you fail?" because you already answered, "There is no failure when I trust the divine plan." It can no longer say, "What if you lose him?" because you already answered, "If he is meant for me, no separation can take it away, if not, then something even better awaits." That is the invincibility of acceptance. And understand, this does not mean you become robotic or emotionless. You will still feel longing, you will still have moments of sadness, you will still desire his presence, but the difference is that these emotions no longer dominate you, no longer push you into desperation or pull you off center. You become like a strong tree. Emotions are the wind passing through your branches, making you sway, but your roots are so deep in acceptance that you are never uprooted. And this emotional stability, this ability to be at peace even within uncertainty, is exactly what dissolves twin flame blocks. Because the biggest block is not external, it is your internal resistance to what is. Here is something fascinating I've observed working with hundreds of women on this journey. The moment they truly release control and enter genuine surrender is almost always the moment something shifts with the twin flame. This is not spiritual manipulation, it is quantum physics. When you shift your frequency from resistance to flow, the entire field around you reorganizes. The divine masculine, who was running because he felt the pressure of your neediness, suddenly feels space to breathe. And in that space, he can finally feel his own longing instead of reacting to yours. But for this to work, your surrender must be real, not strategic. The universe knows the difference between, "I will pretend to let go so he comes back," and, "I truly let go because I trust one and taken care of." Only the second creates miracles. But even with sovereignty and acceptance, there is still one critical piece missing, and that's what we'll talk about next. Pillar 3, inspired action, not reactive action, intuitive intelligence. Definition: moving only from a deep soul yes, not from panic or emotional scarcity. This is where most people stumble on the twin flame journey. They confuse impulse with intuition, and that confusion is costly. Because there is a massive difference between an action born from your soul and an action born from your fear disguised as desire. The authentic divine feminine doesn't act reactively. She doesn't send a message at 3 in the morning just because she's missing him. She doesn't accidentally show up where she knows he'll be. She doesn't post a strategic photo hoping for a reaction. These are reactive actions driven by the anxiety of trying to control the outcome, by the need for validation, by the panic that if she doesn't do something right now, the window will close forever. And the worst part? These actions always have the opposite effect. Instead of bringing him closer, they push him away because they carry the heavy energy of desperation. Inspired action, on the other hand, is completely different. It comes from a place of peace, centeredness, and inner certainty. It's when you wake up one random day and feel a soft whisper deep in your chest saying, "Today is the day to send that message," and there's no urgency in that whisper, no fear, only clarity. It's when you make a decision about your life, moving to a new city, starting a new project, taking a trip, and that decision comes from the question, "What is my soul asking of me right now?" instead of, "What will make him notice me?" Inspired action doesn't need an immediate result to feel validated because it is already complete in itself. It's an expression, not a manipulation. And when the divine feminine operates from this place, she becomes magnetic in a way no calculated strategy could ever match. But how do you distinguish between the two when, in the heat of the moment, both feel so real, so urgent? How do you know if that urge to reach out is divine inspiration or self-sabotage dressed up as courage? Because yes, fear is clever, it knows how to dress up as intuition, it knows how to whisper, "You need to do this now or you'll lose your chance." And that's exactly why you need a system, a concrete test that gives you clarity in the middle of emotional confusion. And that system exists, and it's simpler than you think, but it requires brutal honesty with yourself. Let's dive into it. Deep action, the intuition test. The feeling test, is the origin piece, DF, or anxiety, fear. This test is going to become your best friend, your inner compass whenever you're unsure about acting or not acting. It works like this. Before any action related to your twin, sending a message, making a call, showing up somewhere, making an important decision, you pause, close your eyes, place your hand on your heart, and ask a very specific question. Where is this desire to act coming from? Then you feel, not think, feel, the energy behind the impulse. If the origin is peace, a deep calm, a sense of, "This is right, this is aligned, no matter the outcome," then you're operating from the divine feminine, from true intuition, and you can move forward. But if the origin is anxiety, that tightness in your chest, that desperate urgency, that thought of, "If I don't do this now something bad will happen," then you're operating from fear, and you need to stop immediately. Let me give you concrete examples so you can visualize this clearly. Imagine you're thinking about messaging him after weeks of silence. You close your eyes, place your hand on your heart, and ask, "Where is this coming from?" If the feeling is peace, you might feel, relaxed body, steady breathing, an inner soft smile, and a thought like, "I just want to share this moment/feeling because it's authentic, and it's okay if he doesn't respond, it doesn't change anything in me." That's inspired action. If the feeling is anxiety, you'll feel, a knot in your stomach, sweaty hands, racing thoughts calculating possible responses, and a thought like, "I need to know if he still cares, I need a sign, I can't take this uncertainty anymore." That's reactive action, and you must resist it. Now, here's the crucial detail: when you identify that the action comes from anxiety, don't blame yourself. Don't spiral into self-judgment. Simply acknowledge. Okay, this is my wounded part wanting control, and I see her with compassion. But I won't act from this place. Then redirect the energy, go for a walk, journal, call a friend, do something that nourishes you. Over time, this test becomes instant. You won't even need to close your eyes, you'll simply feel in your body where the action is coming from. And once you master this, something incredible happens, your actions become powerful, aligned, and magnetic. Because you stop wasting energy on moves that come from emptiness and start acting only when you're overflowing. But there's an additional practice that strengthens this intuitive intelligence even more. Practice the 24-hour rule. Wait 24 hours before initiating communication with your twin. This rule is simple but revolutionary. Anytime you feel the urge to contact your twin, message, call, email, anything, wait 24 hours before acting. No matter how urgent it feels, no matter how strong the impulse is, you create a sacred agreement with yourself to wait one full day. Why? Because 90% of reactive actions are born from temporary emotional spikes, and if you give it 24 hours, that spike passes and clarity returns. It's like answering an important email when you're angry versus answering the next day, the energy is completely different. Here's how to apply it. Let's say it's Friday night, you feel lonely, something reminded you of him, and you're dying to send a message. Instead of grabbing your phone, you write on a piece of paper. Friday, 11 p.m., want to text him about X. You put the paper away and promise yourself to revisit it on Saturday at 11 p.m. When Saturday arrives, you read it again and do the feeling test. In 90% of cases, the urgency will be gone, you'll realize it was just a wave of emotion, and you don't actually want to send the message anymore. Or if you still want to send it, now it comes from peace, not scarcity, and the energy behind your communication will be entirely different. The 24-hour rule isn't about stopping you from acting, it's about giving you the space to act consciously instead of compulsively. And when you practice this consistently, you reclaim your power of choice. You realize you're not a hostage to your emotions. You can feel something intensely without acting on it immediately. That changes everything, because now you're not the person who acts on impulse and regrets it later. You're the person who acts with intention, dignity, and self-respect. And this energy, this frequency of self-respect and emotional sovereignty, is exactly what pulls the divine masculine back. He can sense, even from a distance, that you're not chasing anymore, you're simply being. And being is infinitely more powerful than doing. Result, every action becomes an act of faith, not a defensive reaction. When you integrate intuitive intelligence, the feeling test and the 24-hour rule, something profound shifts in your journey. You stop living defensively and start living spiritually on the offensive. Let me explain. Living defensively is when every action is a reaction to fear, fear of losing him, fear of being forgotten, fear of him finding someone else. It's when you act to prevent an imaginary disaster, to control something you can't control, to hold on to something that can only be yours if it's free. This energy is exhausting, desperate, and ironically, it creates exactly what you fear, distance. Living spiritually on the offensive is the opposite. Every action becomes an affirmation of your faith, your confidence, your sovereignty. You're not trying to hold on to anything, you're creating, expanding, shining. If he chooses to be part of it, wonderful, if he doesn't, you keep growing. Think of the practical difference. When you act reactively, you're always trying to fix something. Fix his silence by messaging, fix the distance by showing up, fix the uncertainty by seeking labels or answers. Every move is an attempt to fill a void or avoid pain. When you act from inspiration, every move is an expression of abundance. You share because you're overflowing, you communicate because you have something genuine to say, you make life decisions because your heart is guiding you, not because you're calculating how it will affect him. This energy shift isn't subtle, it's seismic. And the universe responds, the quantum field responds, and yes, your twin responds, because now you're no longer a weight he feels pressured by, you're a light he's naturally drawn to. And here's the cherry on top. When you take inspired action, you never regret it. Even if the outcome isn't what you hoped for, you know you acted with integrity, honored your truth, and stayed loyal to your soul. There's no corrosive guilt of, why did I do that? Why couldn't I control myself? No shame, only learning and peace. This is the signature of the mature divine feminine. She acts when it's time to act, and she rests when it's time to rest, and she knows the difference because she's connected to the voice of her intuition, not the scream of her fear. But there's one last pillar, perhaps the most challenging of all, that must be addressed for this transformation to become complete and lasting. Pillar 4, honoring the shadow and the fear, integration and love. Definition: fear is not an enemy, but a messenger from your wounded self. The DF welcomes it. We've reached the deepest, rawest, and possibly the most transformative pillar of all, because this is where most people fail. They learn sovereignty, they practice surrender, they master inspired action, but when fear shows up, that visceral, primal fear that screams, you're going to fail, you're not enough, you're going to lose everything, they do exactly what society taught them to do, they try to kill it, silence it, bury it under positive affirmations and white light. And what happens? The fear grows, because what you reject persists, what you resist expands. The revolutionary truth that few people understand is this: the fear of failure in the twin flame journey is not your enemy, it is your deepest teacher disguised as a villain. And the most stubborn twin flame blocks are not external, they are internal, and the biggest of all is the fear that was never integrated, never loved, never honored. The authentic divine feminine relates to fear in a completely different way. She doesn't try to be courageous all the time, she doesn't pretend she isn't afraid, she doesn't perform fake positivity. Instead, she recognizes fear as a legitimate part of the human experience, a part that carries valuable information about old wounds that still need healing. Think of it like this: when a small child is afraid of the dark, what do? You don't yell, "Stop being afraid." You don't ignore them, you don't call them weak. You comfort them. You turn on a light. You explain gently what's happening. You offer reassurance until they feel safe. That is exactly what you must do with the part of you that is terrified of failing on this journey. It is your wounded inner child asking to be seen, heard, and loved. Here's something that changes everything: when you stop fighting fear and start dialoguing with it, when you stop trying to expel it and instead integrate it with compassion, it dissolves naturally, not because you defeated it, but because you removed the reason for its existence. Fear only needs to scream when it's being ignored. But when you finally look it in the eyes and say, "I see you, I hear you, I love you," it can finally rest. This is shadow alchemy, and that's exactly what we're about to do through a practice that will change the way you relate to any difficult emotion for the rest of your life. Prepare yourself, because this will go deep. Deep action, DF dialogue. Place your hand on your chest and ask, "My fear, what are you really trying to save me from again?" This practice is mechanically simple but profoundly impactful, and you'll use it every time fear arises, whether it's fear of failing the union, fear that you're wasting your life, fear of humiliation, or any other form it takes. When you feel that tightness in your chest, that wave of anxiety rising, instead of trying to breathe it away or distract yourself, you'll do the opposite: you'll move toward it. Sit somewhere quiet, place your right hand over your heart and speak, aloud or mentally, with genuine gentleness. "My fear, I see you. I acknowledge you're here. And I want to understand, what are you really trying to save me from again? What are you trying to protect me from?" Then simply listen. Don't force an answer. Don't analyze. Just stay receptive. And here's what will happen: after a few seconds of silence, a response will rise, and it's rarely what you expect. Maybe the fear will say, I'm trying to save you from being abandoned again like you were as a child. Or, I'm trying to protect you from discovering you're not as special as you thought. Or even, I'm trying to stop you from trusting and being betrayed again. And when you hear these answers, something magical occurs. You realize the fear isn't being cruel, it's trying to be your guardian, using the limited tools it has. It's operating from an old program, a wound from 5, 10, 20 years ago, trying to protect you from a danger that may not even exist anymore. And once you see that, you can't hate fear anymore, you can only feel compassion. After listening to fear, comes the second part of the dialogue, where the healing happens. With your hand still over your heart, gently respond. Thank you for trying to protect me. I see that you're doing the best you can. But I am here now, my adult self, my conscious self, and I will take care of us. You don't need to carry this alone anymore. I promise to keep us safe, and you can rest now. Then visualize that frightened part of you being embraced by your higher self, by the divine feminine you're becoming. Wrap your fear in unconditional love until it softens, relaxes, and dissolves in the light of your compassion. Do this every time fear arises, not once, but as many times as necessary, and gradually you'll notice fear shows up less, and when it does, it's softer and easier to hold. The healing, the DF offers unconditional love to the part of you afraid of failing. This is self-forgiveness. Here is the deepest truth of this entire pillar: the fear of failing the twin flame journey is, at its core, the fear that you are fundamentally flawed, unworthy, not enough. That's why it hurts so much, because it's not really about him, it's about you. It's about your ability to love yourself unconditionally even when you make mistakes, even when you don't have all the answers, even when you feel scared and confused. The ultimate healing for this fear does not come from finally reaching union and proving you were right all along. No. The healing comes from looking at yourself exactly as you are right now, with all your doubts, all your fears, all your weak moments, and saying, I love you anyway. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. You are worthy of love now, not when union happens, not when every wound is healed, but now. This is the self-forgiveness most people never give themselves, because they are too busy punishing themselves for not being spiritual enough, for still feeling fear, for still having moments of weakness. They look at others on the journey and think, she seems so evolved, so peaceful, why am I still struggling? And that self-judgment becomes another layer of pain on top of the original wound. But the true divine feminine breaks this cycle when she gives herself permission to be human, to be imperfect, to be in process. She understands there is no arrival, the journey never ends because evolution is infinite. So why wait to be perfect before loving yourself? Why postpone self-compassion to some imaginary future where everything is resolved? Let me tell you what happened to me when I finally understood this viscerally, not just intellectually. I was having a particularly hard day, full of fear about the journey, feeling like a failure because I should have already overcome this. And suddenly something inside me broke, not in a bad way, but in a deep surrendering way. I looked at myself in the mirror, eyes swollen from crying, and said out loud, "It's okay that you're afraid. It's okay that you don't know. It's okay that you're human. I love you exactly like this." And for the first time in months, I felt real peace, not because anything changed outwardly, not because he came back, but because I stopped rejecting myself. And when you stop rejecting yourself, fear loses its power, because fear grows only in the soil of self-abandonment. In the soil of unconditional self-love, it simply cannot root itself. Result, fear dissolves in the frequency of compassion and no longer needs to scream. When you honor your shadow and your fear through loving dialogue and radical self-forgiveness, the result is not that you become someone without fear, you become someone who is not controlled by fear. That difference is enormous. A person with no fear is a fantasy. As long as you're human and open to love, you will feel fear sometimes. But a person who is not controlled by fear is someone who feels fear arise and doesn't panic, doesn't act compulsively, doesn't lose center. She simply acknowledges. Ah, hello fear, I know you. You're here to warn me of something. Let's sit and talk. And so fear stops being a giant monster that paralyzes you and becomes just one voice among many, a voice you hear, thank, but no longer obey blindly. Here's the magic: when fear no longer needs to scream to be heard, it simply whispers, and sometimes doesn't show up at all. Because deep down, fear never wanted to sabotage you, it wanted to keep you safe. And when it realizes you are safe, that your adult self is in charge and can handle any outcome, it finally relaxes. It steps back. It gives you permission to live fully, love openly, and trust without guarantees. And it is in that state of freedom that authentic union becomes possible, not a union between two people who desperately need each other, but a union between two souls who choose each other because it expands who they are, not because it fills what they lack. And here's the beautiful irony: when you stop fearing failure because you already love yourself unconditionally regardless of the outcome, you remove the biggest obstacle to union. Because the divine masculine feels, energetically, that you are whole, that you don't need him to be happy, and that wholeness draws him back. He stops running because there is nothing to run from. You are not chasing. You are simply being, your most radiant self, with all your light and all your shadow integrated into a beautiful, powerful whole. Now that you have all four pillars, the question becomes, how do you maintain this activation in your daily life, when reality tests you? That's exactly what we're going to explore next. If you've made it this far, it's not by accident. Your soul recognized something true in what was shared, something that resonates with the frequency of your own transformation waiting to unfold. And do you know what separates the people who truly change their lives from the ones who just consume content and stay exactly where they are? It's the energetic commitment of declaring, through a concrete action, that you're ready to receive everything the universe has reserved for you. So right now, while this clarity is still alive inside you, while these words are still echoing in your heart, I want you to do something important. Click the subscribe button right below this video and activate the notification bell. Don't think about it, don't leave it for later, just do it. Because this simple gesture isn't just a technical click, it's an energetic declaration to the quantum field that you're actively choosing the path of healing, spiritual love, and deep transformation. When you subscribe to the Spiritual Love Code and turn on notifications, you're not just making sure you'll see the next videos, you're stepping into a community of souls walking the same path as you, people who understand the depth of this experience without judgment or superficiality. You're giving yourself permission to receive more activation codes, more transformative practices, more truths that will guide you through the hardest moments and celebrate with you in the most beautiful ones. Because the divine feminine journey was never meant to be walked alone, and every video I create is a piece of the map guiding you back home, to the home within yourself, where everything you've ever sought is already waiting. So confirm that commitment now, subscribe, activate the bell, and then let me know in the comments that you did it. Just write, confirmed, down below, and feel the immediate energetic shift that happens when you declare your intention publicly. And if you're already subscribed, I'm deeply grateful for your presence in this community, but still, leave your confirmed in the comments, because this isn't just for me to see, it's for you to reaffirm to yourself that you are committed to this process. Every word you write, every action you take that aligns with your transformation creates a frequency ripple that expands through the field and attracts right back to you exactly what you're emanating. You're not just watching a video, you're co-creating your new reality. And once you understand that, once you take energetic responsibility for what you're choosing, everything changes. Now take a breath, because what comes next is the practical part that will show you how to maintain everything you've just activated in the four pillars. Because having the insight is one thing, but sustaining the transformation day to day when challenges inevitably arise is another. Maintenance strategy: what happens next? 1. The failure test proof. If something negative happens, the runner goes silent, etc., the activated DF doesn't panic. She asks, where is the universe calling me to grow? Here's the raw truth no one prepares you for. After you activate the 4 pillars, after you feel that deep peace, that certainty that you finally understand the game, life will test you. And it won't be a gentle test. It will be the exact scenario you fear the most. Maybe he disappears again without explanation, maybe you see him with someone else, maybe something happens that shakes all the certainty you just gained. And in that moment, you'll discover whether you truly integrated the divine feminine activation or if you were simply riding an emotional high. Because the authentic DF is not measured by the peace she feels when everything is going well, anyone can feel peaceful at the top of the mountain. The true DF is measured by her ability to remain centered when the ground disappears beneath her feet, when everything seems to be falling apart again. So when this test inevitably comes, and it will come, because it's part of solidifying your new frequency, the question is not, did I fail? The real question is, how am I going to respond? The DF who isn't truly activated will panic instantly, she'll check her phone obsessively, send desperate messages, call every friend for reassurance, pull 3 different tarot readings trying to find something that calms her anxiety. She'll revert to every old pattern because, deep down, the activation was only superficial. But the DF who truly integrated the pillars does something radically different. She feels the fear rise, acknowledges it without judgment, takes a deep breath, and asks herself with genuine curiosity, where is the universe calling me to grow right now? What part of me still needs healing so that this doesn't shake me? Here's a real example of what this looks like in practice. Imagine that after weeks of beautiful connection, he suddenly goes completely silent. The old version of you would collapse, create 1,000 stories about what you did wrong, whether he found someone else, whether everything was an illusion. But the activated DF feels the tightness in her chest and thinks, interesting, this silence is triggering me, what is it showing me about myself? And then she realizes, there's still a part of me that believes silence equals rejection, that absence means abandonment. That's my inner child's wound being activated, not objective reality. Instead of reacting to the trigger, she works on the wound, she uses the fear dialogue from Pillar 4, reclaims her sovereignty from Pillar 1, practices surrender from Pillar 2. And just like that, what could have been a relapse becomes a portal to deeper healing. This is the difference between being in the journey and embodying the journey. 2. The art of being unaffectable, stable energy. Maintenance for the DF is about energetic consistency, not perfection. The key is your bounce-back time, how long it takes you to recover after a low. Let's destroy a dangerous myth in spiritual circles, the idea that an activated divine feminine no longer feels pain, no longer has bad days, no longer gets shaken by anything. That is a romanticized lie that only creates more guilt when you inevitably have a moment of weakness and think, I failed, I'm not spiritual enough. The truth is entirely different. Being unaffectable doesn't mean not feeling. It means not getting stuck in the feeling. It doesn't mean you'll never feel sadness or doubt when something hard happens, you will. But the difference lies in your bounce-back time, how quickly you return to your center, your peace, your trust. A beginner DF may take weeks or months to recover from a trigger. A developing DF takes days. An activated DF takes hours, sometimes minutes. Think of it like a physical skill. When you first start lifting weights, even 5 pounds feels heavy and leaves you sore for a week. But after months of consistent training, you lift 20 pounds easily and recover in a day. Your strength increased, your resilience increased, but that doesn't mean you no longer feel the weight. It means you've developed the capacity to carry it without being broken by it. Emotional stability for the divine feminine works the same way. In the beginning, one text from him leaves you floating for 3 days, and the lack of a text drags you into despair for a week. Your energy is totally dependent on external behaviors. But with consistent practice of the 4 pillars, you develop such strong internal stability that even when the waves come, you sway but you don't sink. And here's the secret of maintenance: you don't measure your progress by the absence of difficult moments. You measure it by your recovery time, and by your ability to avoid making major decisions while you're in an emotional valley. Create a personal daily check-in system. Every morning, before starting your day, place your hand on your heart and ask, what frequency am I operating from today? Am I in the DF or in fear? If you're in fear, don't judge it, simply acknowledge it and choose to practice at least one pillar that day, maybe the surrender meditation, maybe the fear dialogue, maybe redirecting energy toward one of your 3 abundant sources. And on the days you fall, because you will fall sometimes, instead of spiraling into guilt, simply rise faster. The power is not in never falling, it's in always returning. This imperfect consistency is what builds an unshockably foundation. 3. The domino effect, impact on the twin. The mirror twin feels the stability of your frequency. You become the steady point of peace he seeks. This, not control, is what accelerates divine reunion. Now let's talk about something that will make everything click: the direct impact your transformation has on the divine masculine, even when you're not in contact. Here's a quantum truth that modern spiritual science confirms: the two of you are energetically entangled on a level that transcends space and time. Every frequency shift that happens in you is instantly felt by him at the soul level, even if his conscious mind doesn't understand it. When you were in fear, lack, and desperation, he felt it as pressure, as an invisible demand that made him run even farther. But when you shifted into sovereignty, peace, and wholeness, he feels that as relief, as invitation, as a safe harbor he didn't even know he was searching for. Think of it this way: the divine masculine, especially during the runner phase, is in deep internal chaos. He's confused about his feelings, afraid of the intensity of the connection, running from the vulnerability that union requires. And in the middle of that chaos, he's subconsciously searching for something stable to anchor into, something that makes him feel it's safe to feel, safe to open up, safe to stay. And when you become that stability, when you stop emotionally oscillating based on his behavior, when you radiate consistent peace regardless of what he does or doesn't do, you become the lighthouse he sees through the storm. Naturally, inevitably, he begins moving toward that light, not because you manipulated him or used a technique, but because his soul recognizes the home it has always been looking for. And here's the beautiful part: his movement toward you no longer comes from a place of you needing him or wanting him desperately, it comes from divine alignment. It's like when you stop chasing a butterfly and it lands on your shoulder. When you stop making union your obsession and make your own activation your focus, union happens as a natural byproduct, not as something forced. And this union is completely different from the version you imagined when you were in lack. Now you don't want him to complete you, you want him to expand the completeness you already embody. You don't need him to be happy, you choose him to share the happiness that's already yours. That is the difference between a codependent relationship disguised as a twin flame connection and a true spiritual union. This is why reality shifts, because you quite literally changed your reality by changing your frequency, and everything around you, including him, reorganizes itself to match your new vibration. But there's one crucial aspect of the runner-chaser dynamic that still needs to be addressed to complete this understanding. Bonus, DF, fear, and the runner/chaser cycle. The hidden connection, the DF's fear of failing in the union and the DM's fear of intimacy/loss are two expressions of the same core fear. Here's something that will blow your mind and finally make you understand why the runner-chaser cycle is so intensely painful. The fear you feel as the divine feminine and the fear he feels as the divine masculine are not opposites, they're perfect mirrors of each other, two different expressions of the same primordial wound. You fear failing in the union, not being enough, giving everything and losing everything. He fears true intimacy, being vulnerable, opening fully and then being abandoned or destroyed. On the surface these fears look different, but at the root they're saying the exact same thing: I'm not safe to love or be loved completely. And this is why you trigger each other with such surgical precision, because each one of you activates in the other the exact wound that needs to be healed for the authentic union to happen. Think about the dynamic: the more you, as the DF, fear losing him and act from that fear, chasing, needing, controlling, the more you confirm his fear of being suffocated, swallowed, or lost inside someone else's emotional need, and then he runs. And the more he runs, the more you feel like you're failing, like you're not enough, like you have to do more, be more, try harder, and then you chase even more. It becomes a perfect loop of two fears feeding each other, creating exactly the scenario both of you fear most. He runs because he's afraid of losing himself, you chase because you're afraid of losing him, and neither of you sees that both already lost the only thing that matters, the connection to your own essence. The runner-chaser dynamic is not about who loves more or who is more evolved, it's about two fear systems dancing, waiting for one of you to have the courage to stop the music and choose love. And here's what's even deeper: these two expressions of fear, yours and his, actually need each other in order to be healed. You cannot heal your fear of failing in the union through any other relationship that doesn't force you to confront the terror of investing completely without guarantees. And he cannot heal his fear of intimacy through any other connection that doesn't force him to feel so deeply that he can no longer hide, pretend, or live on the surface. This is why you chose each other at a soul level before you even incarnated, not to live happily ever after easily, but to gift each other the most precious thing that exists, the exact mirror that forces the growth your souls need. When you understand this, the runner-chaser cycle stops being a punishment and becomes a sacrament, a sacred ritual of mutual transformation. How the DF heals the DM. When the DF stops fearing failure, she radiates safety and confidence. This safety dissolves the runner's need to run and invites him to land in the safe harbor that is you. Now comes the revolutionary part that changes everything: you have the power to break the runner-chaser cycle not by changing him, but by changing yourself. And it's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming stable. Because here's what happens energetically when you integrate the 4 pillars and dissolve your own fear of failing: you stop projecting need and start projecting safety. And safety is the only thing that can call a runner back, not strategic texts, not calculated absence, not psychological games, but genuine safety. When you're no longer terrified of losing him, no longer obsessed with when he'll return, when you're genuinely fine on your own yet open to union, you become something he has never felt before, a place where he can rest without being devoured. Let me explain how this works energetically. When you were in the frequency of fear, there was a vacuum-like energy around you, as if you were pulling energy from him to fill your inner void. And he felt this even from a distance, even unconsciously, and the natural reaction was to run, because his soul knew that if he returned at that moment, it would be to feed your emptiness, not to co-create with your fullness. But when you dissolve the fear through sovereignty, surrender, inspired action, and shadow integration, that vacuum disappears. In its place, a frequency of overflowing abundance emerges, an energy that says, I am whole, I am at peace, and if you want to be part of this, you're welcome, but I'm fine either way. This energy doesn't repel, it magnetizes. But it only magnetizes when it's genuine, not performative. And here's the final piece of magic: when the divine masculine feels this shift in you, and he will, because you're connected on a quantum level, something inside him relaxes for the first time in a long time. He no longer has to run because there's nothing chasing him. He no longer has to protect himself because there's no demand or emotional pressure. And in this safe space you created through your own healing, he can finally start doing his own work, confronting his own fears, moving toward the vulnerability the union requires. You don't heal him by doing the work for him, you heal him by creating the energetic environment where he can heal himself. You become the safe harbor every runner is secretly searching for, the place where he can finally stop running and start living. And when this happens, reunion is no longer a distant fantasy, it becomes a natural inevitability. Now, let's close this cycle with full clarity on what you need to do from this point forward. Final summary: the key to overcoming fear is to embody, not to fight. The divine feminine is your armor. If you absorbed everything that was shared in the last 30 minutes, you now hold something in your hands that most people spend their entire lives searching for and never find: the ultimate key to dissolving the fear of failure in the twin flame journey at the root. And this key was never about controlling the outcome, forcing the union, becoming perfect, or manipulating his energy. The key has always been about you becoming so whole, so stable, so anchored in your own divinity that fear simply has nowhere left to cling. You've learned that sovereignty frees you from dependency, surrender frees you from control, inspired action frees you from reactivity, and honoring the shadow frees you from self-rejection. These 4 pillars aren't pretty theories to post on social media, they're practical, tested, proven tools that transform you from the inside out when you truly practice them. And here is the final truth I need you to understand with every cell of your being: the divine feminine is not something you search for outside yourself, not a state you reach by reading more books or taking more courses. The divine feminine is who you already are at the core, beneath all the layers of fear, conditioning, and unhealed wounds. She has always been there, patiently waiting for you to remove everything that is not her so that she can finally shine. And when you embody this truth, when you stop fighting fear and start integrating it with love, when you stop rejecting your imperfect parts and start embracing them with compassion, you become unstoppable. Not because nothing can hurt you, but because you know, deep within your soul, that you can walk through any pain and come out the other side stronger, wiser, and more complete. This is the armor of the divine feminine, and nothing and no one can take it from you. So the question is no longer, will I be able to overcome this fear? You already have every tool you need. The real question is, will I actually apply what I've learned, or will I let this knowledge die as unused information? Because knowledge without action is just entertainment, and you didn't come this far to be entertained, you came to transform. So I challenge you, right now, before life distracts you again, before doubt returns, before you forget the clarity you felt in this moment. Choose one of the 4 pillars, just one, and commit to practicing it religiously for the next 7 days. It could be identifying your leverage points and creating sources of abundance, doing the morning surrender meditation, applying the 24-hour rule before any communication, or doing the loving dialogue with fear every time it shows up. Just one, but practice it with full devotion, as if your life depended on it, because in a way, it does. Next steps: comment call to action. I want to hear from you. Which of the 4 pillars gave you the biggest insight today? Tell me in the comments: sovereignty, acceptance, action, or shadow. And now I truly need to hear from you, because this isn't a monologue, it's a conversation, a co-creation between us. Scroll down to the comments right now and tell me, which of the 4 pillars resonated most deeply with you today? Was it soul sovereignty, that revelation that you were giving your power away in the wrong places? Was it radical acceptance, the awareness that you were resisting the present and feeding fear? Was it inspired action, the understanding that you were acting reactively instead of intuitively? Or was it honoring the shadow, that painful but liberating truth that you were rejecting parts of yourself that needed love? Write in the comments the single word that represents your pillar: sovereignty, acceptance, action, or shadow, and if you want, add a line about why it touched you. And don't underestimate the power of this act of sharing. When you publicly declare something that is happening inside you, when you witness your own transformation through words, you're solidifying the shift in the quantum field. You're telling the universe, I saw this, I acknowledge this, and now I will embody this. And something magical happens. Other people on this same journey will read your comment and feel less alone, more seen, more connected to something bigger. And you, reading their comments, will remember that although this journey feels lonely sometimes, it is actually a collective journey. We're all climbing the same mountain, just on different paths. So contribute to this collective energy, leave your comment now, and let's create a chain of healing and mutual support that will benefit everyone who arrives here. And before you go, before you return to your life and day-to-day challenges, I need you to do one last thing, and it might be the most important of all. If you're not yet subscribed to the Spiritual Love Code, click the subscribe button right below and activate the notification bell. It's not just so you don't miss future videos, although that's important, because each video is a piece of the puzzle guiding you toward authentic union. It's more than that, it's a way to show the universe, through a concrete action, that you're ready to receive more, that you're saying yes to your transformation, that you're committed to the next level of your journey. Every person who subscribes and activates notifications is energetically saying, I choose healing, I choose spiritual love, I choose to become the highest version of myself. And if this video transformed how you see fear, if it gave you clarity where there was confusion, hope where there was despair, please share it with other women who are on this journey and need to hear these truths. Send the link to a friend who's suffering in separation, post it in your stories so other souls who need this message can find it, leave a like so the algorithm spreads this content to those who need it most. You may be the channel through which another woman finds the healing she has been desperately searching for. And when you do that, when you become part of this chain of light, you multiply your own healing, because giving is receiving, always. So do your part now, subscribe, activate the bell, share, comment, and know that each one of these actions is a vote of confidence in your own transformation. I believe in you, I see you, and I am walking beside you on this journey. See you in the next video, where we will dive even deeper into the activation codes of the Divine Feminine and the secrets of authentic union. Until then, keep practicing, keep growing, keep loving yourself unconditionally, because you deserve everything your soul desires, and you are closer to it than you think. A deep embrace from my heart to yours, and remember, the key was always within you, and now you know exactly how to use it. We walk together on this path back home, to the home within you where unconditional love has always lived. See you soon.